Hi everyone, it's Sandy with Animal Education and Rescue. So glad to be here with you this Saturday morning at 9:15. I'm going to give a few minutes for people to come on board who want to see this live video. And I am going to be talking all about dog breeds. I'm going to talk about the misconceptions and the realities of all different kinds of dog breeds. Hopefully you'll learn a lot from it. And I'm excited to be able to share this information with you. So let's see who comes on board to hear all about different dog breeds. And so I want to give it a minute or so. And if somebody could say hi so that I could make sure that I could see when you are writing to me, I would appreciate it very much. If someone could say something, and I'll give it a minute. Hopefully we'll get a decent group of people on live today. This, I think, is an important topic. Hi, Heidi. So I obviously can see people's messages. Hi, Lori. And I'm going to set this up in a way that hopefully we can have some boundaries going on this live, because I know this can be a heated topic, and I want to make sure that this is done in a way that is professional and appropriate, and will provide you as much information as possible. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Kathy. Good morning, everyone. Okay, so we're starting to get people on. And so again, if you're just joining us, I am going to be talking about different dog breeds, the personalities of different dog breeds, what to expect, and what is misconceptions about breeds and challenges with certain breeds and so forth. Good morning, Sandy. And it will be a big topic, and I only have an hour because I have to get ready for an adoption event. So clearly I'm not going to be able to get to everything, but hopefully I can give you an overview and something to think about, and hopefully some more information that will help you, that you can then share that information with others. Hi, Scott. Good morning. Okay, so let's see how we're doing here. So again, this topic can sometimes be emotionally charged because people have strong views about certain breeds, and I'm hoping to be able to give everybody a kind of middle of the road, not radical view, and very honest view based on my experience of different dog breeds and what to expect, what is misconceptions. And I encourage all of you to verify everything I'm saying by doing your research. And this is the thing. I was a reporter for many, many, many moons, and I continue to be a writer that believes very strongly in writing the truth. And not everything you read is the truth. And frankly, actually, a lot of what you read is not going to be necessarily the 100% truth. It's based on the opinion of the writer, oftentimes, or of the paper that you're subscribing to, or the agenda of the source of whatever you're reading. So whenever you're reading something, it's really important that you say to yourself, what is the motivation of the writer, and who is supporting that writer, and what is their objective of whatever they're writing. Really, really important, really important. So just want to mention that as well. And thank you, Lori, for saying you like my shirt. This is one of my most favorite shirts. I appreciate you saying that. And I wore it yesterday, and I'm proudly saying I'm going to wear it today again because it's still clean and I love it. So, and it's very comfortable. So thank you for mentioning that. Okay. So I think we have enough people on board here. I have a cat that is scratching at the door wanting to come in, and I'm not going to let him in. His name's Stevie, and he is going to be persistent for a while. You'll hear that scratching noise. That's Stevie trying to get in, but I know he'll be on my lap and causing me all sorts of distractions. So I want to set some rules up to begin with. I know most of you that are on right now, so I know you're, good, reasonable people. But if you're on here and you don't know who I am and you don't know anything about me, and obviously I don't know you, I want to set some boundaries for this particular live because it can be emotionally charged. Some of the information that I'm going to be talking about, I would appreciate people offering suggestions or advice at another time, and instead come from a point of curiosity, being curious about what I say and open-minded about what I say, and asking questions. I'm going to periodically in this live offer times for people to ask questions, and then I'm going to have to be wait like 10, 15, 20 seconds until the questions start coming through. They take a minute or so, like not quite a minute, but they do take some time for the questions to actually get to me. So from the time you type it and send it to me, I might not get it immediately. And so I will definitely give everybody an opportunity to ask questions and so forth. And if anybody is going to be radical in their thinking or say mean things or whatever, I will not tolerate any of that. And unfortunately, I would have to, I do know how to get somebody off of a live. I don't expect everyone to have the same exact opinion as me, but I certainly expect people to respect the fact that this is my live. I've only had to do that actually once, and that was actually in my last Sunday live. Some wacky person got on and said something completely inappropriate, and I had to block them. So I'm sure now, with setting these boundaries, hopefully we can get past any potential uncomfortable things. So that said, I want to share with you a little bit about my background so that you know that I'm not just somebody flapping my gums and doesn't know what I'm talking about. So back in, actually my whole life, I had a dog from the time I was 5 years old. And when in 1987, I started my first company called the Pet Sitters of America. And that company is still in existence today. And I have serviced thousands upon thousands of dogs in their homes, dogs with all different personalities, all different ages, all different sizes, all different dynamics, all different owners. In 1990, I started to train to be a dog trainer, and since 1990 until now, I teach dog training. Now I do in-home dog training only, so I go to people's homes to actually do dog training. But for many, 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 many years, I taught group classes as well over at the Glenview Park District, at Hawthorne Animal Hospital, at Care Animal Hospital, at Lamb's Farm. Those are just to name a few of the places that I've taught group classes. And my approach to training is middle of the road. It's not radical, traditional, which means like a lot of popping and releasing on the leash and a lot of screaming and yelling, and not radical, like positive reinforcement, or what they're calling force-free training, which is basically pretty much the same thing. I'm not radical that way. So I try to find a middle approach to my training style, to working with dogs, as well as my approach in life. that I always say, and when I give speeches or when I make comments or share my thoughts, is that life is not black and white. It's a million shades of gray. And so, you have different situations, different animals. The other thing I want to mention is that in 2003, when I started Animal Education and Rescue, I started taking in homeless dogs. I personally have fostered thousands of dogs in almost 15 years, and with all different personalities, all different types and breeds and mixes, and way more experience than the average person just by having the hands-on experience with these homeless animals that oftentimes are wrecked or, have issues and so forth. So that in itself, above the dog training, above the pet sitting, has been probably the best experience that I've had. And I apologize if this video is a little bit shaky. I was trying to find a place that had good lighting, and I'm literally sitting in the corner of my bedroom on a dog bed against a wall with the phone propped up against my knees. It's really ridiculous, but I'm working on that. We're doing more and more lives, and I have a dear friend who is actually hooking me up with lighting and with a microphone, and we're going to get this going in a way that's better than what I'm doing right now. But in the meantime, this is what I have, so bear with the little bit of shaky filming. I see Sharon has joined us. Hi, Sharon. Glad you're here. Okay, so that all said, let's talk about dog breeds. And I'm going to kick it off with a dog breed that, I'll say first, let me just talk about overall dog breeds. There are so many factors that create the individual dog and the individual dog's behavior, personality, and reactions to situations that the dog is in. And I'm going to use some analogies based on, personal experiences with dogs that we've had in our care that hopefully will help you to kind of drive home the point of what I'm talking about. So with dogs, you want to take into consideration their genetics, okay? So what is their lineage? What's their genetics? You also want to take in consideration environment, and you want to take in consideration the human beings that are interacting with the animal and spending day to day with the animal, the people that are coming into the life of the animal, either one time or many times. That would be visitors to the house. It could be anything from the plumber to grandma and grandpa to neighborhood kids, the dynamics of the different dogs in the home and cats in the home and whatever other animals there are in the home. So that changes behavior in dogs. So if somebody has, let's say, more than 2 dogs, then you're more likely to have a pack mentality. Even with 2 dogs, you can have a pack mentality where dogs pack up and behave in a way that they wouldn't if they were individually by themselves. And then you have, dogs that don't get along with other dogs, and then you have dogs that need other dogs, and so forth. And of course, age is a factor. You have everything from a dog that's a puppy, from when it's nursing from its mother to when it gets weaned and then rehomed into a home with human beings. And then all the different stages of development with a dog. So you have everything from, young dog to senior dog, and keeping in mind, dog behavior as well is going to be reflected on the age of the dog. For instance, you could have a person that says to you, like, I'll have someone say to me, my dog can crawl all over, my toddler can crawl all over my dog, and my dog doesn't do anything. Well, first of all, that's not nice to do to that dog. You're actually pushing that dog's buttons and causing that dog to really be restraining an uncomfortable situation that is not a normal behavior that a dog has to deal with, nor should they deal with, and they have to. And then that dog might be 2 years old. That same dog, let's say that child that crawled all over the dog, grows up, everything's fine, that dog's fine, and then some toddler comes in the house when that dog is a senior and crawls all over the dog bites the child. And it's the same dog. What happened? Well, what happened is that dog now has arthritis, and it's very painful for that dog, for that child to be crawling all over it. And so that dog that they assumed would be predictable its whole life is no longer predictable because it's at a different stage of its life, and it's a senior, and it's not going to be as tolerant of that type of behavior, which we all know is inappropriate behavior anyway. Dogs should never have to tolerate children climbing on them, or pulling their ears, or pulling their tail, or lifting their lip, or laying on top of them, or all those other things that people have their dogs do. You are setting your dog up for failure at any age by doing that, but certainly for a senior dog. So that kind of gives you an overall idea of what I'm talking about. So it's a very, very broad topic, and what creates a dog, what makes a dog what a dog is. So I'm going to start out with a few stories to kind of give you an idea of different dog breeds, and we'll go from there. So there's two dog breeds that are actually very, very common in this area. We are located in Lake County, Illinois, and I can only speak for this area. I can't speak for all areas of the country, but I can tell you in our area, the most common breeds are Pit Bull Terriers and Chihuahuas, or Pit Bull Terrier mixes and Chihuahua mixes. Very, very, very common in our area. It is truly the number one dog breeds that we have adopted out are Chihuahua mixes, and secondary are probably Pit Bull mixes, or a variation of a terrier type. So I'm going to give you a couple stories right now to try to illustrate a little bit about dog behavior, okay? And about breed types. Okay, so we took in these little Chihuahua mixes. Their names are Taco and Burrito. And Taco and Burrito are Chihuahua Dachshund mixes is our best guess. Now, we did not do a DNA test on them. And so keep in mind, too, that unless somebody does a DNA test, and I'm not even sure how accurate those are, we are just really guessing on the breed type based on the dog's looks and their behavior. Unless we know the mother and father, and knew, that they were from a breeder and had verification of that, we are really giving educated guesses. But in this case, it was pretty educated guesses that these were Chihuahua Dachshund breeders. Okay, so Chihuahua Dachshund dogs, Taco and Burrito. So let's just kind of chisel away at this. So Chihuahuas being one of the most common breed types, some of the stereotypes of Chihuahua is something that I hear people say over and over again. Oh, I don't want one of those Chihuahuas. They're ankle biters. Oh, I don't want one of those Chihuahuas. They're yappy. All they do is yap. Oh, I don't want one of those Chihuahuas. They're not good with strangers. Oh, I don't want one of those Chihuahuas. The Chihuahua, when I was a kid, a Chihuahua bit me. Okay, so those are all the stereotypes that I hear on a regular basis of Chihuahuas. Now, I will tell you that I have right now 2 Chihuahuas in my care, Chihuahua mixes. Probably the one Squirt is a purebred Chihuahua. And she is used for pet therapy. She is very, very quiet, very docile. She has never bitten anything, whether it's a person or an animal, and she goes to pet therapy, to the nursing home. She goes to educational programs. She does meditation with dogs. I also know a lot of people that have Chihuahuas that are absolutely wonderful, fabulous dogs. And then I've also known and had Chihuahuas that are snarky and difficult and have all the stereotypical traits of a Chihuahua. So, what we want to look at is what is the background of the dog and what is the genetic factors of the dog. Well, Chihuahuas, they have a history that is a little bit of a mystery of their genetics. And I can just tell you that the stereotype that I told you about a minute ago about Chihuahuas is pretty unrealistic, okay? Because really, I have seen Chihuahuas with all those problems, and I've seen Chihuahuas that are fabulous and everything in between. So I don't think that that stereotype is actually accurate for Chihuahuas at all. And you really have to take Chihuahuas as individuals, and not as a group. So, really, if you're going to end up getting a Chihuahua from a rescue organization, work with a reputable rescue organization, and maybe that Chihuahua has been in a foster home for a while, and that they, have a good handle on the dog's temperament. Also, keep in mind, little dogs in general can get more fearful and more afraid, and should be approached carefully and mindfully, and taking your time to get to know them. In the case of Burrito and Taco, being that they're probably part Chihuahua and part Dachshund, they were in a foster home together when we first got them, and they did what some dogs will do when they are together, is they feed off each other in a bad way. So they were really good with their foster family, but when they got outside the house, they would bark like lunatics at other dogs, and they would egg each other on, barking like crazy, lunging and snapping at other dogs. When strangers came in the house, they would bark and growl, and a couple times, I guess, they snapped at a kid that was acting inappropriately with them. That kid was no longer invited to that home, but I guess he was coming at them too quickly. And so those Chihuahua mixes were acting as you might imagine a stereotypical Chihuahua would act. Well, you put a dog in situations where they are at their most stressed, they will act out in the way of that breed type, or in the way of those genetics that are kind of passed down from generation to generation. So when a Chihuahua mix or Chihuahua is scared, they're going to be possibly likely to bark and be yappy or be snappy. So that in that case, because they packed up and they behaved badly together, they actually fed off each other in a negative way. What we ended up doing in their case is we ended up separating them, and they went to 2 different separate foster homes, and they are behaving much, much better. They are showing all of the beautiful qualities of the breeds. Now, I should mention too, Dachshunds, which is the other half of what we believe both Taco and Burrito are, their stereotypical behavior is very yappy, lunging at people or dogs on leash, same behavior. Not always great with strangers, high strung, driven to work, all of those kind of things. And those dogs were exhibiting all those obnoxious behaviors in the foster homes. But both of those types of dogs have absolutely fabulous qualities. So now they're in new foster homes, and Chihuahuas and Dachshunds are known to be very, very loyal, cuddly, loving dogs that love their family. And both of those dogs are showing all those qualities in their foster homes. And as they move forward in more education or in more social situations, whether it's at at public places or with family members, it's very important to take it slow, so that what you're doing is you're bringing out the good qualities of the breed and not bringing out the bad qualities of the breed. And so you do that by proper training, by a good environment, by observing how the dog's behaving in certain environments, and by working on correcting those behaviors. So that gives you a little bit more information about Chihuahuas and Dachshunds. So again, when I'm talking about certain breeds, I certainly cannot go through every single breed there is out there in 1 hour, because I have to get ready for an adoption event. But I'm going to give you an overall idea of what I want you to think about when you think about dog breeds. And so we don't make absolute judgments on any type of breed. Okay, so now we're going to get into a big one, and what I know for some people is a very sensitive topic, and that is the Pit Bull Terrier. Before we get into the actual pit bulls, I want to talk about terriers in general, okay? So terriers in general are more high-strung, more active, stronger dogs. Okay, so we're talking about pit bull terriers. We're talking about soft-coated Wheaten terriers. We're talking about Welsh terriers. We're talking about, there's Jack Russell terriers, rat terriers. There's a million different types of terriers, okay? So the terrier breed in general is more high energy, high strung, needing to have a job, needing to have structure. Any of, whether they're very small like a Welsh terrier or a Jack Russell terrier, or they're very big like a pit bull terrier, or I thought of it this morning. Not a Welsh terrier, whatever the big terrier that looks like a Welsh terrier. It'll come to me. They all are high energy, strong, powerful work dogs that need a job and need something to do, okay? So, and thank you, Heidi, for saying you'll behave. Hopefully you'll agree with me, because nothing I'm saying is going to be radical unless you're a radical person, which I don't think you are. So, so here, let's talk about pit bulls. Okay, so pit bull mixes of different kinds. So they could be pit mix with bull terrier, with Labrador, with, I have a beagle pit mix. Oh, thank you, Stacy. Airedale terrier. That's exactly what I was thinking of. Okay, so Airedale terriers can be very high strung and very powerful dogs, and they look nothing like pit bull terriers, but they're, again, the terrier breed. So, okay, but let's zone in on pit bull terriers. Okay, so unfortunately there is a huge stereotype about pit bull terriers, and people terrified of the breed. There's a whole group of people that want nothing to do with pit bull terriers, and they are afraid of them, and they say they're vicious, they say they clamp on, that their jaws are made to clamp on to, other animals or people. The media loves to do negative stories, that they feed off of negative stories, and they want to scare you, okay? Now that is a general statement that I am making to you to help you in your life. Do not read, watch, look at the news, because 95% of it is going to be negative information that is meant to shock you and to scare you. It does not help you in your life. So there is no different with all those media coverage stories you see about pit bull terriers. The fact is that pit bull terriers are not known to bite or be more vicious than any other breed, okay? So that is the truth. The truth is that any dog can bite. And the fact that they're in the media more often just means that it's more sensationalized and more interesting to hear about the pit bull that bit the kid than it is that the poodle that bit the kid. So that's really important to understand, okay? So don't always believe what you read. I think I mentioned this earlier in this live. I feel very strongly about it. When you read something, find out what the source is. Where are you hearing that from? And okay, so I'm sorry, I'm getting a little distracted by the messages I'm getting. And so if I could have everybody not ask questions quite yet, let me just finish this segment, and then I will ask, does anybody have any questions, okay? So we're talking about pit bull terriers, and the reason we're doing that is because there's such a misconception of them and such a stereotype about pit bull terriers, and being that they are probably the most common dog there is, at least in our area and in a lot of places in the United States, I think it's an important thing for us to talk about. I'm going to tell you a story about a dog that we have in our care right now. His name is Stax. And Stax is a I'm sorry, I'm still a little bit distracted. And trying to understand why certain people on here are saying certain things that have nothing to do with what this live is about. I'm going to not look at any of the comments right now for a few minutes until it's time for questions. So if anybody is asking a question right now, please ask it again in a few minutes. Let me finish this train of thought, okay? So Pit Bull Terriers are very common in the United States. And so Stax, this dog we took in, he came in as a 8-month-old puppy. He was purchased from a breeder to a low-income family that could not keep him anymore. And so they asked us to take him. And so we took him, and he was in our care for about a month and a half or so. And I fostered him, as well as another woman fostered him. And he was with all my dogs. He was with that other woman's dogs. We had no incidents with him. He was wonderful. He was sweet. He was great. We did not do a DNA. We don't do DNAs on any of our dogs. It would cost a fortune. It's $100 per dog. And so we just assumed he was a Pit Bull Terrier mix, and we adopted him to a local family who had him for 10 days. And he had been dog tested with all of my dogs, with the previous foster mom's dogs. He had been around many, many dogs. And so he went to this house, and the people that adopted him knew he knew how to jump fences. And they had a low fence, and they had him off leash in the backyard. He jumped the fence, and he bit another dog. And they returned him to us. Since then, or before that, during the 10 days they had him, they actually did a DNA test on him, and he tested 75% Pit Bull, 12.5% Beagle, 12.5% Boxer. That's how he tested. So we got him back, and of course I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what's going on with this dog? Now, by the way, the dog that he bit, oftentimes the way you can tell how aggressive the attack is by the injuries of the dog. And the dog had 3 puncture wounds. I did talk to the vet, and the dog had 3 puncture wounds, and I think needed 3 or 4 stitches. So it wasn't a terrible injury. It was a small dog, and Stax is about 45, 50 pounds. So we brought him back, and he has been fine with every single solitary one of my dogs, from very young dogs that are small to old dogs that are small, big dogs that are old to big dogs that are small, all different temperaments he has been exposed to that have been in and out of my house, and have gotten adopted. And while he is an obnoxious 1-year-old teenage dog, which we explained earlier that there's different stages of development for dogs, and at this age the dog is obnoxious, which is very typical of this age group, regardless of the breed. So in any case, the people that had adopted Stax now have a terrible opinion of pit bulls. And at least I'm assuming. I shouldn't say that. That's my impression. I could be totally wrong, but that's my impression, is that now they're afraid of pit bulls and afraid of pit bulls biting other dogs. Okay. So we know that Stax is actually good with other dogs because he's been around a lot of other dogs. What I can tell you is that I have noticed that on leash, he is obnoxious with other dogs that he doesn't know, which is actually what we call leash aggression, is not a unusual situation. I'm still getting a lot of people making comments on here, which I have to say is I'm going to have to block some of these people because they're not being respectful. So I'm doing that right now. And I'm asking everybody else because it's very distracting for people to be commenting on things that have nothing to do with what we're talking about here. And because I can see it right on my screen, and it's very hard for me to, you know, to concentrate on what I'm talking about, and it's not nice, it's not fair, and as Heidi says, very disrespectful. So those people are blocked. So hopefully we won't get more people like that on there, on here. Anyway, so what happened with this family that adopted Stax is, and again, this is just my assumption, I don't know this for a fact, but now I believe that they have an opinion about this dog that pit bulls are not good with other dogs, and that they can be dangerous with other dogs. Okay, so let's kind of chip away at this. Stax is a teenage dog, regardless of his breed. Any teenage dog is going to be more obnoxious. They're going to push people's buttons. They're going to cause problems, just like teenage people. You know, every teenage person is going to be different, but some push buttons more than others. Then you layer onto that genetics. Any terrier is going to be more high energy, need more structure, need more guidance. And then you couple that with an experience. So here this dog had only been in the house for 10 days, new to this family, so still adjusting to the family life. And for whatever stupid reason, Stax felt that he needed to jump the fence and go after that dog. I can't answer that. Maybe he didn't like the dog. Maybe the dog was barking at him. Maybe he thought that the dog was going to hurt his owner. I don't know, and he doesn't know English. But I can tell you that it was a perfect storm. He was new to the house. He's a high energy dog. He was a teenager. They weren't watching him close enough. They knew he could jump fences, and he bit the dog. Why am I telling you this? Because I'm giving you an example of a dog that is being set up in an experience, in a situation based on a lot of variables that caused him to behave badly. Does that mean that we need to say that Stax is not good with other dogs? Well, clearly we know that's not true, because right now he lives with a lot of dogs. Okay? He has met a million other dogs. And so we know that's not true. But if we were to base that one experience on our attitude about the misconceptions about pit bulls being vicious, that poor dog probably would be put to sleep. Because we make this assumption that because he did that one bite, and because, let's say, we determine that all pit bulls are bad with other dogs or all pit bulls are vicious, then that dog would have no hope for a home. That said, we have to understand that pit bull terriers were originally bred to fight other dogs, okay? That is part of their history. And so in their lineage, they will have less of a tolerance for other dogs. Some pit bulls, not all, some, okay? They also may or may not have a more tendency when a fight starts to get in on it. Then you also want to factor in a pack mentality. At my house, we have to be very careful of a pack mentality because we have numerous dogs. And so if one dog starts fighting with another, then other dogs might join in. And if more dogs join in, a pit bull terrier, based on their genetics and their lineage and the fact that they're strong, more high-strung dogs, they would be more likely to join in a fight. For all those reasons, not for one of those reasons, but for all of those reasons. They would be maybe more likely to jump into a fight than, let's say, a toy poodle, okay? So it's really, really important that people understand that there are so many factors. You want to consider a dog's breed. You want to consider the environment, the age of the dog, how many other dogs are involved, the experience of the people around the dogs, the experience of the strangers that come into the environment with the dog. All of those play a factor. So I gave two scenarios. One was with Stax, and I told you about that, and he's doing great, and he's with a lot of other dogs, but we know we need to be a little bit more careful with him. We're not going to adopt him out to a family that has a 4-foot or 5-foot fence because he can jump it. We're going to adopt him out to people that understand and appreciate and are not afraid of the pit bull breed, and we're going to adopt him out to a family that is dog savvy. Those are all really important things now moving forward with Stax based on what happened in his situation. So obviously he's in a good place, and he, lucked out in coming to us, because certainly he could have been totally misunderstood. Imagine if they had gotten that dog off the streets and he did that in 10 days, and he would have ended up at animal control, and they would have heard about what he did. And just based on that one experience, that one stupid mistake that dog made, he would have been put to sleep. And I don't mean any animal control. I mean certain animal controls or certain rescues or whatever. So he's in a good place for that. So now is the time I want to take a minute to answer questions that people have. I'm going to go back. I blocked some people, and I'm going to go back to where I might have some comments or questions. And oh, my back is hurting. If you guys knew where I was sitting, you'd be laughing. Let's see. Jessica says, "You're doing great, Sandy. This is great information. Thanks for blocking the people who are being so obnoxious. You're welcome." Yeah, you and me both. They were just like very annoying. I'm glad I figured out how to block people. Let's see. Somebody asked a question, I thought, about German Shepherds. Let's see if I can go back to that. Because I don't see it. Okay, so we're just going to move forward. Does anybody have any questions? I want to answer any questions based on anything I talked about. Oh my God, here's another person I have to block. See, I knew this was going to happen. Okay, this person, hold on. Okay. This Graham guy just had to be blocked. See, I knew this was going to happen. Oh, okay. So thank you, Stacy. So somebody I blocked asked if I had ever seen an aggressive German Shepherd. Okay. Obviously, I'm not going to answer for him because he probably asked for a reason that was just mean-spirited. But let me see what Sharon has to say. "My pit bull can be very territorial about people walking their dogs past my house. How can I correct this?" Sharon, I would love to be able to answer that, but unfortunately, that's not the purpose of this particular live. That's more of like general dog training advice, and I would certainly encourage you to watch my next live next month, and I'll be happy to answer that question for you. But now's not the time for that. We're talking about dog breeds and the misconceptions and the truths about different dog breeds. Okay, so if there's no more questions about pit bulls, I really, really hope, everybody, that you will share this information with others. I cannot stress to you how important that is, that we talk about pit bulls and the misconceptions. And I think Stack's story really drives home the point that you can set your dog up for failure, whether it's a pit bull or anything else. And that in doing so, then you can perpetuate the misconceptions of that breed type based on human error. I hope that makes sense. Okay, let's see what Heidi says. Heidi says, "I recently brought a 2-year-old into my mix, and it's hard. I have to be so careful and watch her like crazy." Yeah, well, I can relate to that. And there may be things you can do. Now, Heidi, I don't know how many dogs you have. You don't have to share that information. But from my little understanding about you is that you do have a pack type atmosphere, and that always creates unique challenges in a household. And if you want to talk about it one-on-one, I'm happy to talk to you by phone. You have my phone number, and I'm happy to share any advice with you on that. But anytime you have more than 2 dogs, everybody, is you are dealing with a pack mentality, and there are certain things that you need to do to ensure the safety of all the animals. And as soon as you add a dog to the mix, you are changing the dynamics of that pack mentality. Everything has to shift, and it can be pretty stressful in the beginning. So I can relate to what Heidi's talking about, and I'm happy to talk to you one-on-one, Heidi. I'm happy to, if you need any advice. Okay, so let's talk about herding breeds, because that's another breed type that can be difficult and challenging. So we're talking about anything from German Shepherds to, we have 3 little cattle dog blue heeler mix or heelers. They're purebreds in our care right now that are 8 weeks old. Border collies, Australian Shepherds, Shelties, collies, and so forth. Those are all herding breeds. Anybody that gets a herding breed dog needs to understand that genetics plays a big role in a lot of these dogs' behavior. What I find with herding breeds, and I have taken in many of them, and I actually have one in my care right now who is a herding breed mix. Probably, if I had to guess, I would say she's an Australian cattle dog, maybe border collie, who knows what mix, but definitely has herding breed instincts. Her name is Star, and she's 14 years old right now, so she's old now. But I've had her on and off in my care for her whole life, since she was 7 months old. Anyway, herding breeds herd. That's what they do. That is one of the things that people have to understand, that when they're getting a herding breed type dog, they are going to want to control their environment. They're going to want to make sure they know where everybody is, how they're lined up, get them in order. Hold on 1 second. I got to block this one person if I haven't already. Okay, I don't know if I've blocked this person. If there's someone named Graham on here, you're being rude. And you need to get off. If I haven't blocked you, you need to get off. And my suggestion to you is to find meditation and kindness and love, and stop acting and behaving that way. Anyway, so with herding breeds, so like if somebody has small children, they may not want to get a herding breed dog, because a herding breed dog, when children run around, their dog is more likely to nip at them, at their heels, and so forth. Herding breed dogs need a lot of exercise, a lot of direction, and they need to work. So plan on taking that dog to obedience training, possibly agility, running with the dog, taking the dog hiking, all of those things are really important when it comes to a dog that was genetically made to herd. What I find is that with the herding breeds, genetics does continue to play a high role in, in how they behave, and setting up their environment to promote these amazing, wonderful qualities. And by the way, oftentimes herding breed dogs are very, very smart too. I think is vital, because you're going to have a lot of dogs of this type that, again, could end up biting or be misunderstood based on the fact that they're working dogs. That's what they're meant to do, and they're meant to keep things in order. And someone that adopts them or purchases them from a breeder needs to value that quality of that particular breed. Really important. Okay, so now I want to take questions. If anybody has any questions for me about anything to do with dog breeds, general dog behavior. I can't answer, unfortunately, specific questions about your specific dog today. but general questions that could help everybody have a better understanding of different dog breeds and some of the stereotypes of dog breeds. And if somebody could tell me what time it is, I'd be very grateful. If they could share with me what time it is too. So any questions would be great. And I'll give it a minute. Whoops, sorry. Okay. It's 10:05. Thank you. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Chuck. Okay, we've got 10 minutes. 10 minutes. This went by really, really quick. And there's so much more we can talk about as far as dog breeds, but I really wanted to touch on the 3 most misunderstood breeds that people can get themselves into situations or into misconceptions about these breeds. So we're talking about the herding breed dogs, which I just talked about. We're talking about the pit bull terrier or terriers in general. And we're talking about chihuahuas. Okay, so Debbie asks, what is your thought on retrievers, more specifically labs? Do they make good family dogs? Had a mix and we really enjoyed him. Okay, good question, Debbie. If somebody asks me what would be a good first breed type dog to get, if they have an active family, if they're willing to do basic obedience, if they're willing to put up with some counter surfing and some jumping up. Those are the 2 qualities of the lab types that are the most common, is jumping up on counters and grabbing food and stuff off counters and jumping up on people. I would say a really great first dog is a Labrador type dog. I love labs. I think they make great family pets. Now, let's kind of chip away at that too, though. Certainly within any breed type, there could be dogs that have a screw loose. And unfortunately, in my experience, we did have a lab mix. And again, I don't know for sure she was a lab mix because we didn't do a DNA, but she certainly looked like a lab mix that ended up being unpredictably aggressive. But I would say that actually we had 2 of them that were. And one of them for sure was a lab. Other than that, the other labs that we've taken in have been fabulous. And I would say, again, going back to kind of looking at the whole picture. So you've got those 2 pretty typical, traits of labs, is jumping up on people and up on countertops. If they're young, they're very high energy. Some of them can be dogs that chew a lot. And so if somebody wants to adopt a good first dog, and let's say they're like, they're a family that is not real dog savvy, they want an easy dog, I would suggest getting a 4 to 5 year old Labrador mix or some sort of mixed breed dog. And I would suggest getting a dog that's past the teenage years. Teenage years is like 8-9 months till, in the case of a Labrador, 2 years old or even 3 years old. So a 4, 5, 6 year old lab mix oftentimes is a really good choice for a first dog. So labs can be really great, but again, it depends on the age of the dog, and there's exceptions to every rule. Okay, so golden doodles, these doodles, what I call the designer mutts, they're very popular now, and I have heard everything from really fabulous things about them to not such great things. In the, back in, I don't know, when they started first becoming popular about, 15 years ago or so, and everybody wants a golden or labradoodle because they said they're the best of both kinds of dogs. What we found is a couple things. Some of these golden or lab doodles still shed, which is one of the qualities that people didn't want. They didn't want a shedding dog, and here they had a shedding dog. Well, if you think about it from a logical standpoint, of course you have a shedding dog because it's half lab or half golden and half poodle. So of course it could shed. So that's kind of silly that someone would think a dog that is, part poodle and part golden would not shed, you're it's a coin toss, may or may not shed. The other thing that we found with golden or labradoodles is they can be very high energy and very high strung for the first 2-3 years of their life, and need a lot of direction, a lot of training, and be just very hyper. That's been my experience, and kind of the behind the scenes that I hear, like doggy daycares and dog boarding facilities kind of rolling their eyes, going, oh, it's another labradoodle or it's another golden doodle, because they're very high energy, kind of bouncing off the walls and super excited. But temperament wise, meaning aggression, no aggression, is, if anything, they're just going to be dopey and silly and goofy and kind of dingbatty. But I haven't personally known any doodle to be aggressive, which is good. So that's been my experience with those breeds. And Heidi says older dogs are the best. I agree 100%. I wish more people felt that way. Again, we look at it from a developmental standpoint. So let me just layer this on for everybody one last time so we get a better big picture of dog breeds. So you want to look at, when you're looking at an individual dog, you want to look at the breed. What's the history, the lineage of the breed type? You also want to look at the environment the dog came from. You want to look at the training the dog's had. You want to look at the age of the dog. Is it a puppy or is it a senior, or where is it in that? And you want to look at the environment the dog is currently in. And so when you're looking to adopt, or you have a dog of your own, all of those factors have to be taken into consideration. That's why I say life is not black and white. It's shades of gray. So you cannot, please everybody, do not take a certain situation or one certain thing as golden, as that's the way it is about everything. There are different elements, different things that happen that cause a dog to behave a certain way. And again, if you just tuned in, please everybody, do not believe everything you see or read, and certainly don't listen to gossip. If your neighbor says, oh, my friend's child got bit by a pit bull, don't take that as golden. Like, oh, well then all pit bulls are bad. And even if they get into detail about what happened, if they weren't there and they didn't see it themselves, then they have no business telling you anything, because they're hearing it secondhand. I hate gossip, I hate gossip, I hate gossip. Even, ironically, human beings are so programmed to believe in something and believe it as the way it is. Once somebody decides something, you can't sway them. So if somebody's already made the decision that all pit bulls are bad, unless they're willing to change their mind, they've already made that perception their reality. So like for instance, Stax biting that other dog. If somebody already had a perception of pit bulls as being vicious with people and other dogs, then it's only, cementing their view on that. So everybody, please be open-minded. Please look at each individual situation individually. Don't listen to gossip. Don't listen to things third hand. Always be curious. Always be willing to learn. Always be willing to research and dig deep before you make broad assumptions based on one situation. Okay, that was my little speech. Let me just go back and see if there's anything else I need to answer before we get off. Okay, let's see. Scott says, you're spot on about all the misconceptions. Sadly, human mistreatment, lack of training, etc., has led to the stigmatization of pit bulls. In previous decades, Rottweilers, German Shepherds. Absolutely. And I will touch on that a little bit more, Scott, in saying that, what makes me super sad about it too is that a lot of insurance companies and a lot of like apartment complexes or associations won't allow people to get these breed types or what they consider dangerous dogs. And that just breaks my heart because there are so many pit bulls or so many German Shepherds, particularly pit bulls now, more than anything, that are sitting in shelters that are wonderful dogs, and they're literally losing their mind in these shelters because the environment is making them into the worst of who they are. You have to understand these pit bulls that are high energy, driven dogs that are very friendly and need human companionship. They sit in these shelters and they rot. They turn into bonkers. And then they wonder why the pit bulls have issues that are from shelters. Well, we need to stop with this stereotyping these animals, the people that own apartment complexes, that insurance companies. We need to also stop allowing the media to dictate the way that we think about things. They love to sensationalize things. So stop allowing them to affect us in a bad way. Start insisting on positive stories instead of negative stories. So that's really important. Hopefully some tips or ideas that you can use in your life, not just with animals. Okay, so let me see what Shannon says. I'm co-fostering a Chihuahua. When I or anyone goes to pick him up, he goes on his side to the ground. No history of abuse. Just wondering if this could be, hold on. Just wondering if this could be typical of small breeds or specifically Chihuahuas. Yeah, that's a good question, Shannon. A lot of small dogs, what we want to do is we want to think from their point of view. What does life look like? And just visualize a ginormous human being coming up to you and wanting to give you a hug. So imagine the Jolly Green Giant, and he's coming over to you and he's saying, oh, in a big giant voice that's, because of course, even if he's talking in a normal voice, it's going to sound bigger. And he comes looming down on you and he wants to give you a big hug. That could be quite intimidating. So I would say that would be typical potentially of any breed, small breed dog. But Chihuahuas tend to be more in general, more sensitive. And I think that's what a lot of people like about Chihuahuas is that they are sensitive and more intuitive about their surroundings, which could explain why when you bend down to pick him up that he gets nervous. It's just clearly not a reflection on you or necessarily his past. It just has to do with the dynamics that he's very small, you're very big, and he may or may not always be like that, but also keep in mind from a dog's perspective, it's their way of saying, hey, you're the boss, we're all good, I love you, and they just feel this need to remind you that everyone's good, they are not in charge, and they're all good. So I hope that helped. Let's see. Okay, we have somebody else that is oh my God, I've had so many people that are really bad people coming on to this. Oh my God. Okay, this is the first time I've had so many people that really must be going on lives and just causing chaos. And I'm going to end with this because this is just, I think important. And if you know me, you know that I try to, make everything a positive. And I'll end by saying a couple things. First of all, as I said, please don't look at life in black and white. Look at it in shades of gray, and that every situation is different, every dog is different, and take all of the factors we talked about today into consideration, whether adopting or whether looking at a particular dog in a certain way. As far as these people that have gotten on today that have said really, you know, inappropriate, rude, disrespectful things, this type of group gathering is no different than if we were in a room together or we were on some conference call with all of us or whatever, is that there are people in the world that are mean-spirited, that are angry, that want to cause trouble. And the bottom line is that they are on their own journey in their life, and that they were at one time infants that had parents. They were children that went to kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and so forth. They were taught by parents, by teachers. They were just like us, and they've made these decisions in their life to behave in this way. And for whatever reason, whether it's, whatever's caused them to decide to behave this way. And I just would suggest to all of you that we just wish those people the best, and that we, I guess, hope for them that they choose, instead of creating chaos in their life, and instead to come from a place of love, and that we will not contribute to that by mirroring their behavior by being angry or upset or whatever, and instead to wish them well and wrap them and surround them in love, in the hopes that in doing so they will learn to love as well. And I guess that's it. So anyone that is in the Libertyville area today, or in the area at all, or not in the area, and you just have nothing else to do, or you want to come visit me, come see me and some of the animals and some of my volunteers over at Pet Supplies Plus today in Libertyville from 11 until 2. We will be there with the cattle dog puppies. We'll be there with a Cocker Spaniel. We'll be there with some other animals. And we would love to have you come visit. And thank you so much for joining me. It means the world to me. Get out there and enjoy your day and do something kind for somebody else. And of course, take care of yourself. Okay, bye everyone.